This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. There was chaos, utter chaos, near fisticuffs. In one case, the speaker's seat was snatched away by some members of parliament today as NDC MPs attempted to set aside the approval of the 2022 budget. They had contended that the approval yesterday was unconstitutional because the speaker could not count himself in forming a quorum for a decision on that budget. Haruna Idrisu, the minority leader, tabled a motion of rescission and came up against boisterous MPP MPs who interrupted him all through. Listen.
In the matter of budget statement and oversight, with unaccompanied and unknown concessions only known in the imagination and thinking of a minister of finance. He does not walk to this house on his own authority. He does. Under Article 179 of the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker. Honorable members, order. Mr. Speaker, in concluding on my motion, honorable members, order. Let's listen to the application by the honorable minister. Honorable members, order, please. Order. Let's listen to the leaders, please. Mr. Speaker, yes, it's true. I welcome the Honorable Adua Safo in that hairstyle. But Mr. Speaker, I was referring to the votes and proceedings of Friday, 26 November 2021, when I said that the votes reported, and accurately and rightly so, the votes and proceedings of Friday, 26 November 2021, reported that the Honorable Sarah Adua Safo was absent with permission. And therefore, I'm saying that if 137 took a decision which was declared a nullity, and the same 137 yesterday took a decision, it's only appropriate. We do not recognize that the presiding officer of the speaker has an original or a custom vote, and therefore you could not be more than 137. I so submit.
Well, that definitely was a tip of the iceberg. The real chaos was just about playing out. I want to go to Parliament right now and bring in my parliamentary correspondent, Parker Wilson, who has been a witness to everything that unfolded in the House today. Parker, so we just had there Haruna Idrisu's, motion for a rescission. He was arguing that we just heard how he was heckled throughout. Evans Mensah, who is a majority leader, had a very interesting position that further left the House divided. What was this?
Evans, the majority leader is clear in his mind that the two deputy speakers are not speakers. They represent a constituency. And so they are in the chamber in their capacity as MPs for the various constituencies. And specifically with the first deputy speaker of parliament, who is George Sewusu, the Joe Sewusu's presence in the chamber does not negate the fact that he represents the good people of the past. And so, the argument being made by the NDC that the fact that he is presented doesn't mean he shouldn't be counted as a member of parliament is neither here nor there.
142, that they are quoting. The Speaker shall have neither an original nor a casting vote. The Speaker, I want to suggest that the Speaker mentioned here is not the best. Mr. Speaker, Article 95. Article 95 draws a distinction between a Speaker and a Deputy Speaker. The Speaker, and 95 provides there shall be a Speaker of Parliament who shall be elected by members of Parliament from amongst persons who are members of Parliament who are qualified to be elected as members of Parliament. It deals with Deputy Speakers. There shall be 2 Deputy Speakers. Mr. Speaker, then 101 says, the Speaker shall preside, not a Speaker, the Speaker. The Speaker, people should be well educated and informed before they make pronouncements. It is about the Speaker and not a Speaker. The Speaker, so you come to 102, which provides that, and then 104.2 goes on to provide the Speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. The Speaker, I want to suggest to my colleagues that Speaker has been posting in Article 95, not a Deputy Speaker. Don't confuse the two. Don't misread and misinterpret the Constitution. This, Mr. Speaker, is the fine line of distinction. Mr. Speaker, he is a Speaker.
Order, please. Order.
A Deputy Speaker is a Speaker, not the Speaker. That's the distinction. That is the distinction. And I thought people clothing themselves with professorial clothing would understand this basic.
Mr. Speaker, let him complete the reading of 1091. Complete it for the record. And then, complete it for the record, Mr. Speaker. Then you say Speaker. Mr. Speaker includes a member presiding at a sitting. Don't set aside our standing orders. We are grossly misleading this house. So let him complete standing order 1091. Don't read it halfway. Read it in full for our purposes. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, no value addition. Mr. Speaker, the point I'm making is that the Deputy Speaker who mounts the chair does not cease to be a member of this House. That's the point.
So that was the majority leader's point there, Parker. But there were other contributors to this debate, notably former Attorney General Joe Gatti, MP for 2nd D. And he got into this really brutal, heated argument with the minority chief with Muntaka Mubarak over something that was very interesting. What was this?
And Evans, the MPs believe that they need to accord themselves with respect. And so Muntaka was making the point. In fact, Jogati had made the point about the NDC misconstruing the Article 104. And so shortly after that, Muntaka decided to respond to him directly. Now, in the course of responding to Jogati, he started using his left hand to point at him. And that really got Jogati upset. And he interrupted and asked the Speaker to ask the Member of Parliament to be in order.
Let me now take you to Order 6, which he has quoted. Mr. Speaker, Order 6. Mr. Speaker, sorry, I take objection to him using his left. He's pointing to me with his left. Oh, sorry. He was not respect. He started his left to me with the left. Mr. Speaker, now I'm referring to him. I take objection to that. I'm really very sorry.
Honorable members, order. Honorable member for Keta. What is your objection? I try to avoid any more interjections, but what is it that is tilting you?
Mr. Speaker, we live in a country.
Mr. Speaker, you shouldn't also be speaking. If he is a senior in this house, and that is what he wants to teach us, they will copy him. Mr. Speaker, you brought us together.
Honorable Samuel George, and kindly resume your seat. Honorable member for Tamale North, kindly resume your seat. Kindly resume your seat, please. Honorable leaders, I will not countenance.
Mr. Speaker,
yes, let me hear you.
That the Honorable Mutaka is my colleague and a very good friend. We worked together in the past. But today, Honorable Mutaka is continuously pointing at me, but it's not time.
You're out of order.
In my culture, it is as well.
Honorable, you're out of order. Yes, let's continue.
Mr. Speaker, even though you rule me out, I'm not aspiring to be president. If I'm aspiring to be president, I apologize. I will point my left hand at you. I will keep pointing to you with my right hand. You know I'm left-handed, so sometimes I forget and I'll use my left hand. I'll provide for it. Even though.
So he apologized, Parker. Then comes the Speaker's ruling on this matter of the motion to rescind, set aside yesterday's verdict, which approved the 2022 budget. What was Joe Wise's ruling on this?
In fact, his point he was making was that he read the argument of the NDC, and clearly they lacked a deeper understanding of the standing orders and, of course, Article 104, which indicates that he, as Joe Wise, if he's presiding, cannot be counted himself as a member of the House. That is not true. And that the Deputy Speaker is not the Speaker of Parliament.
I have not heard anything here today which was not discussed yesterday. All the arguments that have been made were practically the arguments and the issues raised and contained in my ruling yesterday. There are a few matters, though, which I wish to clarify. First, it must be clear that a deputy speaker is not a speaker. Indeed, Article 96(1) Article 96(1) of the Constitution says, and I quote, "There shall be 2 deputy speakers of Parliament who shall be elected by members of Parliament from among members of Parliament." And to contrast that with Mr. Speaker is not a member of Parliament. I am a member of Parliament. The Honorable Second Deputy Speaker is a member of Parliament, and our role is to assist the Speaker in managing this House. So, any attempt, to read, I'm not a member, if you don't keep quiet, I may be forced to ask you to leave. Any attempt to read and interpret the Constitution of Mr. Speaker to include the Deputy Speakers is a misreading and a misapplication of the Constitution. But when Mr. Speaker is not available, either of us will preside on the House. So can any other member, if necessary. Any other member can be elected by the House to preside. That member does not lose his right to be a member of the House. That is what our standing orders say. Honourable members, when it comes to the question of voting, it is very clear Any time any of the deputy speakers or any other member elected to preside is in the chair, that member does not vote. That has never been in dispute.
Parker, this sounds pretty civil. So how did this then degenerate into the all-out chaos that we later saw?
Evans, you would realize that when he said deputy speakers are not speakers, that is where the NDC MP started agitated. In fact, Sam George, Al-Hassan Suhaini, Roxy Nelson Defemefor, Kwame Abuja were very vociferous on this matter. So there they indicated that if you are not the speaker, then you do not have the right and you are not clothed with the powers to make any ruling or a determination in the chamber. So they stood up from their seat, heading towards where Joyce was sitting. That was when the marshal pushed him out, and then the MP for Ashaman, Ernest Nobe, snatched the speaker's seat. In fact, he was taking it away when the marshals.
He climbed the podium to where the speakers.
He climbed the podium, and Ernest Nobe climbed the podium, grabbed the speaker's seat, and then was moving away with it, indicating that there's no speaker in the house, so he's taking away the seat. So the marshals in Parliament or in the chamber then followed him, grabbed him, and then retrieved the speaker from him.
I see. They retrieved the seat from him.
The seat from him.
Where was the speaker when this was unfolding?
Oh, just before that, in fact, when the NDC MPs were headed towards the direction, the marshal quickly whisked Joyce away, right from the podium. After he had dismissed the motion and adjourned sitting for 1 hour, suspend sitting for 1 hour.
Time a member is presiding, either a deputy speaker or a member who by necessity is elected from among members to preside, that person does not vote.
He's debating. We are debating.
Who was that?
Shut up! You should shut up, brother. Manuel ruling. Haru, please. Speaker, rule quickly.
When members argue that except otherwise provided in the Constitution, it is clear that it is provided for in Article 2912, where it is required that a decision be made by 2/3 of members. It doesn't mean that we should go to the quorum for. So, honorable members, let me put on record that I am a member of Parliament. I was counted to make the quorum, and that was suspended in this house. What are you doing? You don't rule on it. We have to take a decision. I did not vote. Tell me in the standard of what is for the application. He cannot rule. He cannot rule on an application. That is before the house. No. How can he rule on an application? He cannot rule on the voting before the house. How can he rule? Honourable members, sitting is suspended for 1 hour. You are not a speaker. He's not a speaker anymore. What is this? We are waiting for Mr. Speaker to come. He is not a speaker. He's the one who says he's not a speaker. So we treat him as such. He said he is not a speaker. We hear a speaker. We are waiting. If you are not a speaker, don't preside. He shouldn't. Shut up.
Parker, I understand in the wake of all this, both sides, the leadership on both sides are now locked in the meeting.
Yes, now Evans, I mean, even before this meeting, the speaker suspended session for an hour. So when they resumed, it was actually the second deputy speaker who had mounted the chair. Haruna Iddrisu made the point that they were expecting the first deputy speaker to come and continue the proceeding and, of course, put a question to the motion he filed. But the second deputy speaker said that the House should adjourn for further deliberation. So they've adjourned the House, and as I speak to you, the leadership of the majority caucus and the minority caucus are locked up in a meeting over the disagreement today. They are told that they want to build consensus, find a lasting solution to the disagreement so that tomorrow they can continue with the proceeding.
Paka, thank you very much. Paka will join us again because this unfolding matter surrounding Adjoa Safo had played out on the floor today with some very interesting comments made. Madame Adjoa Safo herself has spoken about the reports that somebody impersonated her yesterday. I want to stay with us for that coming up on News Now. But I want to bring in the MP for Boku Central in the person of Mahama Yariga, who himself was on the floor today, one of those leading this motion for setting aside of the 2022 budget. Mr. Yariga, thank you for your time on Top Story.
Thank you. Good evening, and good evening to the listener.
Before we go to the substance of your argument, you must admit that what happened on the floor today, I mean, to put it mildly, was shameful.
Well, I think that the issues at stake here should not be forgotten, which is an attempt to impose taxes on all transactions, an attempt to impose over 20,000 different taxes. Including 20,000 different taxes, or 26,000 actually. So those are the real issues. As for the theatrics and the fact, it is just the method that both sides are deploying to see if they can prevail. The majority group essentially trying to find a way to make a claim that the budget, which contains these factors, has not been set aside. The minority insisted that they must establish that the budget has gone out, and so those taxes do not, in terms of policy before the House. Those really are the essential issues. As for the things that happen in the House, it's just a way of pursuing each
apologies, Mama Yaga. We have a terrible connection to you. We are calling you back on a better connection, on a better line that we can have a conversation about. If you're just joining us this evening, the top headliner from Parliament is that the Speaker has thrown out an attempt by the minority side to set aside the approval of the 2022 budget, of course, which also led to its own series of controversies. And as we saw play out today in Parliament, it had led to a bit more controversy. Mr. Aga is back now. Mr. Aga, were you suggesting that there is a justification for the chaos and the use of bad language we saw, the snatching of seats of the Speaker, etc., that we saw today? There's a justification for that?
Well, I indicated that each side is legitimately pursuing the agenda, which is to fight against the taxes that are being imposed, and then to fight to retain the budget and the taxes that are being imposed. I think that there are rules within the House to ensure that bad behavior is punished and dealt with, and perhaps those who are responsible for order in the House should do their work. I think for me, I don't want us to take our eyes off the ball, which is the fight of the minority to prevent the policy that seeks to impose taxes on electronic transactions and seeks to increase over 20,000 levies and charges for all government services. That is really the big, elephant in the room.
Yeah, and it appears you've lost that fight, have you know, because the 1.75 was approved yesterday. Today you attempted to set it aside. You failed. And I
don't think so.
You haven't failed?
I think that what happened today was irregular because all of you watched. The Speaker allowed the motion to be moved. And when I got up, I seconded the motion. And then he allowed 3 sides each to debate. And so the natural consequence, and indeed, as dictated by our standing orders, was that he was to put the motion to a vote. But he clearly could see that his side didn't have the numbers. So he thought he could, smartly rather give a ruling. But it was out of his control to give a ruling. If he had prevented Haruna from moving the motion and prevented me from seconding the motion, then there was no motion before the House. But once there's a motion, seconded, debated, everybody observed that the motion had been moved and seconded and debated. The logical thing is to put a question on that motion. You can't give a ruling
so you
on
were
the motion.
looking for a vote?
So yes, there had to be a vote. There had to be a vote. Why is there any time that we are there, they're trying to run away from a vote? When we were there the last time, they ran away from a vote. They said they have the numbers today. We have come, and they are still running away from a vote. So that is the issue. But I keep saying that.
So how do you correct it, or you're letting it go?
This country today is taxes, and we're against the taxes.
I mean, just finally, so you still insist what happened today was again unconstitutional. You're letting it go, or there are further attempts to rectify this?
Oh, we expect that any time there is a sitting, the Speaker must put the vote on the motion that Honorable Haruna Idrisu moved, which I seconded. And we'll continue to make that demand. We'll continue to make a demand that the next stage is a vote. And so he must put the vote and let us vote.
If you take your argument that what happened yesterday because of the numbers was illegal, what about the decision taking last Friday by the opposition? Do you concede then by the same logic that you're also wrong?
What happened yesterday is based on a position that what happened on Friday was a nullity, because by their argument, we didn't have the numbers. So we also raised the issue that they also didn't have the numbers. So we should put it to a vote. And they refused to put it to a vote, and yet thought that their vote should be sustained. That's basically the issue. But I think that the most important thing is let's avoid the theatrics. Let's go to the substantive issues, the taxes. What are they doing about the taxes? They haven't told us what they will do about the taxes.
Well, government says they'll reduce it. They said they'll reduce it to 1.5%.
It is not properly laid before the House, so it's not part of the record of the House. People have said on radio that the tax is being reduced by percentages that they have speculated, but it is not officially before the House. Taxes are going to be reduced.
Okay, Mr. Ayega, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your time here. And he was on the floor today as the MP for Boko Central. The leadership of both sides are still locked in this meeting. We're going to bring you the very latest from that. Plus, really, did we have a case of impersonation in the House yesterday of Adjo Asafo? Stay with us.
It's Black